Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into an absolutely fascinating juxtaposition of two completely different universes colliding. On one hand, you've got the high-stakes, adrenaline-pumping global phenomenon of Netflix's Money Heist, a show that literally took the entire world by storm. And on the other hand, we have the hilariously oblivious, beautifully grounded, and utterly practical reality of Indian parenting, courtesy of YouTube star Bhuvan's family. I mean, what exactly happens when a massive international press junket in Spain crashes headfirst into a dad who just wants his torn socks replaced? Well, let's dive right in and see how a fancy trip to Madrid turned into an absolute masterclass in domestic comedy.
Right off the bat, Bhuvan is trying his hardest to impress his parents. He's showing them this luxurious hotel room, panning the camera to a sweeping view of Madrid. And his dad's immediate response? It's not awe, it's definitely not excitement, it's a scolding to clean up his messy room. This is instantly followed by a totally deadpan observation that Madrid looks, quote, exactly like Noida, which, if you don't know, is just a bustling suburb of Delhi. It brilliantly sets up the whole dynamic we're looking at today. Because, hey, no matter how far you travel or how massive the show you're promoting is, you are never, ever immune to a classic parent reality check.
All right, Part 1. A comedic Spanish arrival, Noida, in Madrid.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. Bhuvan has arrived in Spain for one of the biggest events in global entertainment. He proudly announces to his folks, "The people of Money Heist have called me." But his parents, they have absolutely no clue what Netflix's biggest hit is. So they process the words money and heist through their own highly localized lens. His dad immediately asks why people from PMC Bank are calling him. For some context here, PMC Bank was involved in a major local financial scandal in India. So instead of a glamorous Hollywood-style invitation, his parents genuinely think he's fielding scam calls from a defunct local bank. You just can't write this stuff.
And honestly, it gets even better. Bhuvan figures, hey, maybe I'll try the show's original Spanish title, La Casa de Papel, to see if that rings a bell. Nope. Instead of recognizing it, his family completely butchers the pronunciation in the most hilarious, deadpan way imaginable. They hear La Casa and somehow twist it into a phrase about kicking an uncle with slippers or just absolute nonsense like La Grace and Caca. Eventually, they literally tell him to just drop it and focus on moving a drape in his messy room instead. The massive pop culture footprint of this show means absolutely nothing in the Bam household.
But Bhuvan's surreal experience isn't just limited to his phone calls home. While he's out and about in Spain, he runs into an Indian uncle. Now, you'd think being thousands of miles away from home might spark a fun conversation about travel, right? Nope. Bhuvan mentions he's from Lakshmi Nagar in Delhi, and the uncle casually notes, "Oh, Manohar's underwear shop is right there." He then earnestly asks Bhuvan if he wouldn't mind picking up some tailored underwear he dropped off back in Delhi. It's this incredibly funny, hyper-local mini-story unfolding right in the middle of a glitzy European press tour.
Moving on to Section 2, Explaining the Heist, Teachers and Deodorants.
So, because his family still has no clue what he's actually doing in Spain, Bhuvan has to attempt an explainer within our explainer. He tells them the show is about a group of people taking hostages to rob the Bank of Spain, and they're led by a mastermind known simply as the Professor. His dad pauses, processes this wild information, and asks a strangely logical question. Oh, so even over there, teachers don't get paid well? I mean, you have to love the logic. His father's immediate assumption is that if a professor's resorting to robbing a national bank, Spain's education sector must be facing a severe salary crisis. It's a hilarious, weirdly socially conscious leap.
Trying to clear things up, Bhuvan explains the show's iconic naming convention. He tells his dad, look, they're committing a major crime, so obviously they can't use their real names. They use code words. He lists off the famous aliases. One girl is Tokyo, one man is Berlin, another is Denver.
Now, the whole point of this for the show's creators was to use major global cities to give these characters an international, edgy mystique. But when Bhuvan's dad hears Denver, his mind absolutely does not go to the capital of Colorado. He immediately replies, but Denver is a deodorant, right? He recognizes it strictly as a popular everyday Indian body spray brand. Once again, the high-stakes, glamorous illusion of the show is instantly popped by a deeply relatable, everyday middle-class reference. And you know what? Even Bhuvan himself isn't totally immune to this trap. As he's standing there, surrounded by the sleek, stylish Spanish actors of the show, he starts filtering them through the lens of classic Bollywood cinema. He points out one actor and compares his height and charisma to India's Jagu Dada, veteran actor Jackie Shroff.
He points to another, notes his smile, and calls him Spain's Gulshan Grover, famous for playing iconic Bollywood villains. So even for the creator, this massive European cast is still best understood through familiar Indian archetypes.
All right, Section 3, the shopping list. I don't need anything.
Now we shift gears to an incredibly grounded moment that literally anyone with aging parents will instantly recognize. Before heading out, Bhuvan asks his dad if he needs anything back from Europe. His dad starts off by asking for a new muffler. When Bhuvan asks if he needs anything else, his dad hits him with the classic guilt trip line, "No, son, now that I'm old, I don't even feel the need for anything." But then, he casually mentions his shoes are worn out, and he needs a new office bag. Bhuvan offers to get everything on a list, to which the dad repeats, No, I don't need anything, son. Actually, my blue sweater's all torn up." And the final item? A single sock that is torn near the toe. We're treating this escalating mundane shopping list with absolute documentary seriousness here, because the contrast against a multi-million-dollar Netflix event happening right outside his window is just pure comedic gold.
Section 4. Messages from the cast. Global love.
Despite the comedic disconnect with his family back home, the reality on the ground in Spain is actually really sweet. It's one of immense gratitude. The cast members display this genuine enthusiasm and deep affection for their massive Indian fan base. One of the stars even makes a very specific promise, saying, "When this pandemic is over, I am going to come there, and I have to visit Goa." It just beautifully highlights the real, tangible cross-cultural connection bridging Spain and India. They're clearly not just reading off PR scripts, they know exactly who and where their audience is.
So, summarizing the key takeaways from these cast messages, we really get a sense of how deeply the show resonated. They talk about the overwhelming love and support they feel all the way from India. Some of the cast members note they've already visited multiple times. One even mentions recently receiving an acting award in Bombay, and just how humbled they were by the recognition. It proves that, hey, while Bhuvan's parents might be wonderfully oblivious, the cultural impact of the show in India is incredibly powerful.
And finally, Section 5, Time to Head Home, a mother's review.
As we guide you to the conclusion of Bhuvan's trip, he's taking a freezing cold stroll through the markets of Andorra, getting ready to fly back to India, and he makes one final, surprising phone call home. Over the course of his trip, something miraculous has happened. His mother, who previously couldn't care less about this so-called grass show, has actually sat down and binge-watched the whole thing. When Bhuvan asks who her favorite characters are, she confidently says Berlin. But then she adds her second favorite, lesbian. Bhuvan has to quickly correct her. She means the character Lisbon. It is such a hilarious, genuine mispronunciation that shows she is deeply invested now, even if she doesn't quite have the character names totally nailed down yet.
But here is the absolute best part, and frankly, the perfect way to wrap up this story. Her final review of the show isn't some critique of the cinematography or the pacing. It's a dramatic, emotionally shattered question. Why did Nairobi die? Think about that. She went from complete ignorance and annoyance at the start of the trip to being a fully traumatized, emotionally invested megafan mourning the loss of a beloved character. And that really leaves us with a provocative thought. If a show can cross language barriers, oceans, and even the stubborn, practical defenses of a typical Indian mother who really just wants you to clean your room, isn't that the true definition of a global masterpiece? So, what show has completely changed your perspective when you least expected it? Think about that and keep learning.